In this video I'm going to be talking about trenches. The same principles are used if you're making a dungeon corridor, bunker corridor, a canal. They're always the same principle. So there's a few different pieces you can use for this, and it depends on what scale miniature you're going to be using or what size feature you want it to be. So this is what I call the trench maker piece. It's the same piece that's used for making straight river sections. And if you put one here, and another piece over here, you can see how you can make quite a wide corridor section. Or if you put them both in the same hexagon, you have a very narrow one that's only 25mm wide. So that's going to be too narrow probably for the majority of miniatures. There'll be some that might work with. But that's a couple of ways it can be used. You can also use the cliff maker piece to cut these in half. So instead of having this coming along at the sort of 1/4 point, it can come at the halfway point. Or you can have it cut across, from corner to corner, which is what I'm going to do in this video. And that gives you, those 3 points, 1, 2, 3, or even the other side, 4, 5 if you want. There's 5 different lines you have it cut across this hexagon in this direction. So it gives you a lot of variety of different widths of trench you can make. The miniatures I'm going to be using are these 25mm fancy miniatures. So for me, a 50mm corridor would work quite well. And this is how I've assembled my toolkit to help me build one of these. So I've got 2 high sides here. The height doesn't really matter for the purpose of this. And 2 low sides, just to hold everything in place whilst I'm cutting. Right, I have a block which I'm going to be cutting through. And because the hot wire cutter is going to run right the way down to the bottom here, to make sure it cuts through cleanly, doesn't get stuck at the bottom, I've got a old piece of scrap which I can put in at the bottom of my toolkit, bottom of the configuration, and then I'll put this on top. So make sure I've got a nice edge to cut into. Okay, and I'll take my hot wire cutter, hold this all together, and hope you can see it okay. Run it down to the bottom. Okay, and then hopefully let's get all the way through, and I should be able to lift it out. So actually, I cut through that just fine. Possibly didn't need the scrap on this occasion, but didn't do any harm either. So that's one side of my corridor. So I'll go straight ahead and cut the other side. Okay, I'll put the scrap in just in case. There we go, so we'll hang on to this block. That could well come in useful for something else. So here are my 2 sides. These are 45mm deep, the way I've cut this. So that's sort of 3 hexes deep. Doesn't particularly matter. Yeah, something like that I want to have. and I'll just glue those on. So if I get to just put it, in fact, this is where this block's going to come in useful straight away, holding it all in place. So a bit of glue. Please bear with me. This one done. I'll put that on. I won't worry about getting it perfect just yet. Okay. Oops. The other side, and then put a block back in the middle so we get it all lined up perfectly. I'm happy with it. So remember that when I cut this, the hot wire cutter does remove a small amount of material, it melts away some material. So you can't just push it all together, you've got to line it up on the outside. Okay, then what I'll do is get something to put on top of here to weigh it down. So let's get one of these, say. Something to weigh it down. And we'll come back and see how that looks later. So there you go. I've not let this fully dry yet, but it's enough that you can see what's happening. So my inches will be moving along here, and obviously when you've got a few of these corridor sections joined together, you get a real feel for the complex, the bunker or dungeon that you're trying to build, and you can add in features. If it's a trench works, it's obviously very deep, too deep for trenches, really. But if you did, you could put in some decoration of plank work along the floor, or if it's a dungeon, you might have some stone texture, and it might be easier for you to apply that texture before you put the sides on that middle section, depending on what technique you're using. Okay. Bunkers and dungeons.